Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
How are you?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Howdy.
What was that?
Howdy.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Let's do a quick round of housekeeping. What haven't we done for a while? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Wow, that's the one I was going to say. We're on the same wavelength. No, there's none. Earth is not a ball.
P waves and S waves say otherwise.
You're talking about Earth sonograms? Like when they're doing a woman's pregnant?
Yeah, they send out a signal from a point, and then they measure the incident angle of that return signal, with respect to a flat plane, and then you can figure out it's a sphere there.
What else haven't we had in a while? Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Danny Faulkner says observational science is a thing. That we have sixth grade understanding of science. And it goes on beyond that. So it's science what they're doing, Nathan.
Say observational
Observing the
science.
stars.
Is that, I think it's called an equivocation fallacy. When you take part of the whole to be true of one section of the whole to be true of the whole.
Composition.
Say again.
Composition.
Composition fallacy. I always get that wrong. It's a composition fallacy. So one aspect of the scientific method is to observe a phenomena occurring. Now, if you take that and say, well, that's science. What, observing phenomena occurring? No, that's observing phenomena occurring. Formulating into a hypothesis and then varying something you think caused it to see if it does or not. That's science. But just saying observational science makes it sound like you can just observe and declare, because that's what astronomers do. So that's their science. It's just pseudoscience then. If it hasn't adhered to the scientific method, it meets the definition of pseudoscience. If they're claiming it is, quote, observational science, no, it isn't. Science is very specific. This is not that. They're just looking at stuff.
It's funny that Danny indicted himself to say that he doesn't have a sixth grade understanding of science. Is kind of embarrassing for a PhD, isn't it?
It is if you're declaring you do science. Please share the show. As I said in the introduction, we've got quite a few clips to be covering. It's still Danny Faulkner related, but it's to do with someone else, which I'm sure Mush will explain now as I go find my way to the first one.
I forgot his name. He's a born-again Christian. I forgot his name. Lisle or something.
Whose channel was it actually originally on? I know all these clips are you, so obviously I don't want to just...
Peters. It's from the same video that Danny Faulkner was on. This is just the last interview of a 4-hour long video. So it's Justin Peters' channel. And the guy in question is a born-again physicist. again, I forgot his name. His last name is Lisle.
Did you say born again physicist?
Did I say that? Born again
It's a great
Christian.
title. I love it either way. If it was a Freudian, if it was a
Sorry.
misspeak, then great.
Yep.
Born
Born
again
again
You
Christian.
can make
physicist.
that the name of the show, right? Born
I
Again
talked over you. Say
Physicist is
again.
the name of the show.
Say again. One more time.
Is Born Again Physicist going to be the name of the show?
It will be now. Yes.
That sounds good.
Born again physicist. So what's his name?
Let's look it up, man. I forgot. Lisle is his last name.
Okay. We'll get into
I
it.
don't
The original clip
Yeah.
that I brought up in the pre-show, you said to just discard that one, right? It'll slip into the list. The one from yesterday with the same guy in it. Don't worry. I'll start where I think is appropriate. Mush.
View is a thing. I am just amazed that we're living in a day and age in which information has never been more readily accessible. I mean, a quick Google search and you can come up with, just all kinds of information, photos of Earth and planets and all of that kind of stuff. And yet,
I can't do much about him distorting his own mic, unfortunately, so it doesn't really matter what filters I put him through. I've just tried. He's overloading his mic. I can't do anything about it.
there is almost counterintuitively to me a resurgence in the belief that the Earth is flat. How is this a thing, and are you surprised this is a thing?
It is a little surprising. It's disappointing to me. It shows an extreme lack.
That's very telling. Disappointing. Why would it be disappointing? I don't really understand this appeal to emotions.
Lack of discernment.
Well, he did bring up he did bring up a good point. He said this is the information age, so therefore you are left without excuse for belief. We know.
We know
You
because
don't.
we can pass on information easily. Well, does that not follow that you can pass on misinformation just as easily then? It doesn't seem to stack up that would be a standard.
No,
Find it
in the age of
disappointing.
information, with information so readily available, you have no excuse for the misinformation because you didn't do your due diligence. That's on you. You didn't do it.
Okay. So by that standard, it'd be equivalent to 100, 150 years ago, someone saying, you can't possibly disbelieve what the government have just told us. We've got the postal service and telegrams. How can you possibly disbelieve it? We've got the printing press and newspapers. The readily available information is so abundant. How could you disbelieve? It's like, so you're telling me because you can easily distribute information via newspapers, telegrams, and that makes the information right? That it doesn't. It's so
No.
non sequitur.
No, it would be like someone standing in a library and them saying that they didn't believe books existed. And you're like, well, they're all around you. Just look at it. And they won't.
I don't know if that's a fair comparison.
In our society in general, which frankly, these days I'm no longer surprised. When I first heard about it, I thought there's no way that people could.
When I was talking about the overloaded mic from the other guy, it was relatively mild. Now I know already I'm not going to be able to do anything about this guy's mic overloading. It's horrendous. Is it all like this? Presumably so. God, this is going to tick me off by the end of the day.
Believe that. Do they not have any knowledge of astronomy?
The flat Earth view is a thing. I am just amazed that we're living in a day and age in.
There's a bit of projection. So what he's got under Aston's, or whatever you call them, the title in the slide, right? So it's not a real photo. You're like, is that you projecting the failures of your own claim to be photos of something from space? Because this has got many problems. First and foremost, you've got a pizza pie Earth floating in a sky vacuum. Not a real photo. Well, first of all, not a real background either. But your globe Earth in a sky vacuum will have the same background, won't it? Yeah, not real. Yeah, never to be photoed from anywhere other than the ground. So what's this not a real photo thing? Yeah, you know our criticisms of your globe Earth in a sky vacuum, obviously. So you're going to tell us that somebody's professing this is a real photo? Nobody professes this to be a real photo, unlike the blue marble.
Which information has never been more readily accessible. I mean, a quick Google search and you can come up with,
This is the same clip, Nathan. You playing it over.
That the world is spherical for thousands of years. The Greeks knew that before the time of Christ, when Jesus was in his earthly.
Is that someone interrupting? Go ahead.
Tell me who? Who are these Greeks? I keep hearing this thousands of years, but they're not giving me any people or any literature.
Wouldn't matter. The appeal to these people from thousands of years ago, again, because someone 1,000 years ago says Narnia is real. Oh, okay. Someone in Narnia, then no, there isn't. Doesn't matter what they say 1,000 years ago. What are they claiming to be proving, and how are they claiming to be proving it? With wells and sticks and shadows. Yeah, you don't need a flat Earth for all of that. You need to dig into the actual claim, regardless of the timeline. It's this appeal to the consensus is so strong because it's been here for such a long time. So it's an appeal to consensus, but with a validation of the appeal to consensus with timeline. Look how long consensus has known. That's what this is. Go ahead, John. I think it was.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they didn't believe that. They had the celestial sphere model with the flat plane in the center of it. That's what they believed. This
diagram on screen is
that
Eratosthenes claimed to be stick and shadow and how it would work with the trig on a flat Earth, which is how it's depicted in their books. You're like, okay, sticks and shadows, right? You need a flat Earth for this example. Do I care that they used a flat Earth 2,000 years ago to measure triangles and shadows? And it's like, what you're saying? They knew it was flat 2,000 years ago. He's got a misapprehension that the sticks and shadows off a flat Earth somehow proves it's a sphere 2,000 years ago. Like that's relevant. It isn't. It proves a flat Earth when you look into the actual example.
Within his fallacious logic, his facts are incorrect, is what I was saying.
Yeah. Most of the time,
no,
what we
it's
say...
Earth so biggie.
No,
Nathan.
No. I was about to say the contrary to that. Not Earth so biggie, but they don't realise that their incorrect appeal to how Earth's been known to be spherical for 2,000 years has that measurement, its origin, the claim, regardless of 2,000 years ago, in a flat Earth. That's what it's based on. Now, most people who incorrectly ascribe sphericity with a appeal to consensus from 2,000 years ago in this case are unaware that claim, regardless of them saying, well, I therefore say it's a sphere. Yeah, you know the conclusion from 2,000 years ago. That's fascinating. How did they come to the conclusion? They measured Earth flat. Something we should be leaning on rather than concerning ourselves with whether or not it's true that they said that Earth's a sphere. Yeah, they can be wrong 2,000 years ago for all I care, regardless of the lack of primary source evidence for these characters.
Can I ask a question?
I'm gonna go with no.
How big was that example that they used? How big was the well? And how big was the shadow?
What, for the angles off a flat Earth?
Well, they're saying that you can't say that it's flat in that area because Earth is so big.
Yeah, we know they concede to our arguments when we point out how it's actually done. And then they start to make apologetics for why, yeah, well, of course we're getting angles off a flat Earth. But we just treat the spherical ground we know is spherical as flat when we actually measure it to say it's spherical. The measurements are flat, but that's because it's so big. And for 10 years, we've been hearing that's because the globe's so big and arguing with their apologetics. Just focus on what they say, Neil. In your example, they say, yeah, in that very small area, it's flat. Right, okay. So you're measuring it flat. Yeah, that's starting point. Yeah, gotcha. But apologies for why it's not being measured spherical? I don't give a damn. It's measured flat. We all know it. We've been saying it in 2024. That's our shtick now. They say it as well. And then apologise for why they haven't measured it globe-shaped.
Right. They immediately have to go into a special pleading fallacy where what they don't know is contradicting what they do know.
So we know we're going to measure angles off a
over.
flat Earth, but that's only because the bit we can't measure and don't know is true also. Special pleading for something that doesn't stack up with the measurement you've taken that's flat. Yeah, that's useless. I don't care what they apologise with. I'll say, well, you're entitled to your belief. What's that? We measured it with sticks and shadows that must be flat. The Earth, the ground, to get this angle must be flat as a reference. Gotcha. So all we've done in terms of measurements is measure it flat, and you're entitled to your belief after that. That's what I'll be saying moving forward. If they appeal to an apologetics for why they are measuring it flat with sticks and shadows, which is precisely what they're doing and they're apologising for. Like I care. Bit more clip, bit more video.
Ministry, people already knew the world was round.
Right.
The idea that Christopher Columbus was out to prove that's a myth. People already knew the world was round at the time of Columbus. He just thought it'd be faster to go that way, partly because he underestimated the size of the Earth, and also because, of course, they didn't know about the Americas.
As evidenced by what? Is he going to cite something? Give us some documentation? But a letter to a friend? What's he got to back this? So the general consensus that Columbus went and changed the rhetoric from flat to sphere shapes, not round. Round and flat can be synonymous also. A coin, for example, is round and flat, not sphere shaped. But you're leaning on this. He knew the Earth was round. Round, that's not sphere shaped. And when we measure angles off it, we can measure a circle of equal elevation to Polaris. That's round and flat.
At that point.
Right.
So Columbus wasn't out to prove the world was round. He just
one of the songs they made up about him and the stories they tell about him, which are wrong based on pure fiat because you haven't actually cited anything to back this. You're just going to now repeat it.
He was out to prove that it was faster to go.
Really, that's what you just said earlier. It's almost like if you say it twice, you've validated that which you've claimed. It's almost like that, except to someone with some discernment that just recognises repetition without validation. Go ahead, John.
Christopher Columbus was navigating the sea. How do we navigate again? Is it with respect to a curve?
No, as on screen now, you wouldn't get angles to the horizon off a curved surface. You'd need a horizontal plane of reference. The plane of reference with respect to the ground that you're navigating. Like this, with angles to a star. Off a flat plane, how it is done, how Christopher Columbus will have and did do it. With a sextant and a timepiece called a chronometer. Anything else, Sean? He measured and navigated it flat. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
North, south, east, and west are all directions with respect to a flat plane as well. So he used two different methodologies that require Earth to be flat, but he thought it was a sphere. Yeah, you better cite that.
Yeah, and then get around how he's navigating it flat, but also proving it's spherical when his measures and methodology for navigating the surface are flat.
Other way than to go what he thought would be the longer way. He was wrong, but I'm glad he made the trip. So it comes from a lack of discernment. I think people don't realize.
Based on this lack of evidence, lack of primary source citations, based on what? You repeating the same claim about Columbus twice that didn't in any way validate sphericity, but we can demonstrate how he actually navigated with the processes he definitely used, and they were all flat Earth processes, two of which have been detailed by John lonely moments earlier. That's citing and backing what we say. Yeah, celestial navigation proves it's being navigated flat by Columbus.
The good evidence that there is for a round Earth. The fact that the ancients were able to discover that, the fact that
they were able to discover that it was round. Ancients being who and what did they discover? Is this guy just throwing out baseless assertions? Is that what this guy's shtick is?
Well, teaches that the world is round. It does.
Say again? Celestial sphere.
He's greasing the skids for the Bible right now because it says circle of the earth in the Bible. So that's why he's saying circle.
Okay, but circle of equal elevation when you measure angles, as Columbus would have done to the points in the sky we call stars. He's making a circle on the ground with those angles, right? Circles of equal elevation. Well, you can describe circles all day long and reference a flat plane. That's how Columbus navigated it, by the way. But I'm not really understanding why you would lean on circle if you're going to try and say sphere. That doesn't make any sense. Is that all he's got?
So he can equivocate.
They're not going to say sphere. That's what he's saying. They're never going to say sphere.
As it doesn't, the Bible's not an astronomy textbook, but it does reference the roundness of the earth.
It's not an astronomy textbook. Well, as in astronaming. You're telling me that the stars aren't named? I'm pretty sure the Bible does give stars names, because that's all astronomy is. Astronaming. I'm pretty sure it is the first astronomy book if you want to look at it in that context, because there's names of stars. The stars get given names. What's he babbling about? Does this guy even know the words that he uses and what they mean? Astronomy, a new idea, basically based on observational science. That's pseudoscience, where you look at lights in the sky and give them names. That's it. That's what they do.
The face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. And that boundary between light and darkness is what we astronomers call the terminator. That's where light stops, on God inscribing a circle on the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. And that boundary between light and darkness is what we astronomers call the terminator. That's where light stops on the earth. It's where it...
No, light doesn't do that. So you are under the misapprehension that we have a terminator line because of this fraudulent picture from a sky vacuum. Why doesn't it say not a real photo underneath this? Because it's not. You can't take photos from second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuums of terminator lines that don't exist. Have you never experienced dusk? Yeah? What about dusk in autumn, where it lasts for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours as the sun recedes very slowly? You never experienced that? No, it just terminator line. Yeah. 30 minutes from now, the line will move along a globe and that'll be it. That'll be the end of the sun. No, that is definitely not how we experience the world. There is no terminator line. This is garbage. And there's no disclaimer about it not being a real photo either, which is outrageous because this is not a real photo. We can debunk it. Yeah? If this was 10 to the minus 17 Tor sky vacuum, as is asserted in the heliocentric, not real photo providing religion, then all of the gas at high pressure where these people are residing on the claim to be surface of a sphere, their high pressure gas would expand into the area of volume. That's what gas does. It expands at a high rate of speed into whatever volume it's got to fill. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. Ergo, if the sky was a vacuum, which it's not, the gas the people on this curved surface are breathing would fill the space. They'd all be dead. It's absurd to assert that an area that doesn't exist, that's a sky vacuum, can have little machines sent to it to take pictures back of terminator lines. So we can debunk the image you're leaning on. Furthermore, dusk. Go out into the real world and experience how nightfall comes upon us, because it isn't with a terminator line.
Evening and morning are happening. And the only way that can be a circle, especially on waters, because the Earth's surface is mostly water, 71%.
It isn't. Dusk is not a circle.
Water.
Right.
The only way that can be a circle is if the Earth's spherical. Any other...
Okay, that's fascinating. Let's just take it as read rather than arguing about what circles can achieve at nightfall. That's not a sphere. Who cares?
Shape, it'll...
Also, you're taking the... Oh, sorry. I was just going to say you're taking the angle of incident of light rays with respect to what? To get these angles to draw your circle with. What are you on about, dude?
It's a horizontal plane of reference that's used to get these circles, flat circles, not sphere-shaped circles. Sphere shape's something different to a circle. This is a circle. In this case, it's a circle of equal elevation. In this case, it's a angle measurement to the sun or star along a horizontal plane of reference. That's what it is. That's a circle. How is this in any way sphere-shaped? I'll tell you how you could make it sphere-shaped. You see how we've got a line drawn out from the surface to the guy's zenith in the diagram? Well, if you continue that, you could make a globe around this guy and say that you take this angle from hell and say that the measurement that could be assumed to be a virtual protractor wrapped around this guy, you could call that the globe. If you put Polaris, the measurement that gives you your globe, at its minimum, that gives you your equator. So if this was a 0 angle measurement to Polaris, in other words, it's on the equator, it's on the horizon, my bad, then that gives you the overall Polaris zenith-based minimum angle to give you radius for a sphere. So from that point, if this guy is at Polaris, at the North Pole, and he moves out to the outside edge where you measure Polaris at its minimum, that's the globe surface wrapped around the angle measurement that you just took. That's how they turn the flat plane and a measurement to Polaris into the globe.
You said you could do that. They do that. I've done that in my kitchen. Yeah, that's exactly how they do it.
Yep, that's how they turn a flat plane into a globe. Isn't it nuts? 92 people watching. Please share the show. More to come from this videographer. I'm sorry about his distorted microphone.
You could be a circle maybe at one time, but at other times it won't be. So that's an example right there of Job knowing something about the spherical nature of the Earth. And Job, we think, was written around 2000 BC, which is interesting.
He didn't say spherical. You're just a liar. Is this guy a liar? Job didn't say spherical. Anybody else see the word spherical in the text he provided? Notice he provided a citation for that, but then lied about what it said. Did Job say spherical? Am I missing something?
No, he said circumference circle of the Earth.
Not spherical.
Yep, gonna combo circle with spherical, and that's all the trick they got. They're gonna be a one-trick pony on this.
Because the secularists at that time were the ones that taught the flat Earth. It was those that were faithful to God who understood the shape of the Earth. Apparently, God had revealed that to them, interestingly.
Citation, please.
What?
Where was the spherical Earth revealed to anybody ever? Give me 3 witnesses that say that occurred. Go. Oh, there won't be. There aren't any. You lent on circle. If there was a specific reference to God telling men Earth was a sphere, on the side, like, because they know and others don't. What an absurd notion. Wow, this guy's a complete bullshitter, isn't he?
Right. Or maybe they figured it out another way. I don't know. But in any case,
I don't know. I mean, it could be that nonsense I just made up. Or maybe another way. I don't know. I mean, that almost covers up the complete nonsense you just made up. That little disclaimer. No, that don't cut it. Yeah, I'm still going to call you a bullshitter.
No.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, it don't cut it. It don't cut it because you just detailed, and we know how they come up with this stupid idea that Earth was a sphere. You just detailed it 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, wrap this round you like it's a protractor. That's how it's done. That's it. That's all it is. The angle measurement and the protractor you're taking it with. Is it being done on a ship with respect to a horizontal plane of reference? That's it. You just wrap the protractor around your position, with Polaris being the basis of the protractor size in scale. Yeah, that's all it is. Earth's measured flat and they've turned that into a sphere with the protractor of the angle. Such a simple trick when you know it. John knew it 2 years ago. Right, when you were doing your puppets. 100 people watching. Woohoo! Very warm welcome. Very warm welcome to all of you who've just joined us. We will hopefully shortly provide you with a link to the original video so you can actually go and let the videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So hopefully someone will dig out a link to that. Or Mush will put it in Master B or something. Got a couple more seconds on this. Go on, Neil.
Nah, just saying hello to Chocolate. He came in and nobody acknowledged him.
we know that the Jews did have some divine insight into these issues. It wasn't until around 500 BC that Pythagoras began arguing.
Is he going to cite the divine insight they had? This is so frustrating.
That the world was roughly spherical in shape.
Was that from divine insight that we don't get listed and cited, or what? Yes. Hello, Chocolate.
Yo, yo. Good morning, guys.
Morning. Next.
Hold on a second. Don't we have that? Didn't Rob Skiba used to have like a rough portrayal of how the Jews viewed the Earth?
I don't care how they viewed the Earth. I don't care.
Yeah, but this guy's saying that they had an insight on it.
You keep chasing that. Why are you chasing this down?
Because their insight was that it was flat.
Should we go to the Muslim insight as well, just for balance? Maybe the Hindu insight?
If he's going to reference them.
Who cares? It doesn't matter what their insight was when we're measuring it flat, Neil. It does not matter. Their appeal to consensus from 2,000 years ago or now makes no difference. You're concerning yourself with this appeal to men and a lie about divine insight with respect to a sphere being given by God to men.
I understand that. Just pointing out the lie, that's all.
Oh, okay, we'll do that rather than asking a question that invokes an answer. Who cares what the men had as an insight? It doesn't matter.
It wasn't until around 500 BC that Pythagoras began arguing that the world was roughly spherical in shape. And it's usually not considered until the time of Aristotle, so that's what, 100, 150 years, 200 years later, that the world is considered to have been proved to be round. And
what, with elevation angle measurements? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking it was measured flat.
One of the ways that Aristotle proved it was by pointing out that in a lunar eclipse, when the Earth is between the sun and the moon,
assuming an orbital motion that's been derived from flat plane measurements. So the stars' motions have been tracked, their respective positions above the ground, and angles with respect to them, based on a system that's got angles of Polaris used at its heart. Well, those systems were already understood at this time. Detailed in the ephemeris, we had a good understanding at this time how the stars moved. Not a perfect understanding, but a pretty good understanding. With respect to a flat plane. So you're going to now take orbital motion from, what, Kepler? And say that they knew that there was a rock moving between another rock in an orbital motion. That's absurd. The system was developed from the flat plane angles to Polaris in the first instance. All of the tracking information for the stars is with respect to their angles and positional information above a flat plane. Now that can be described as the celestial sphere, but the sphere is the heavens and the angles with respect to a protractor. The sphere is essentially the protractor that you would measure out when you look at the stars. That is to say, if you measure an angle to something on the horizon, it's at 90 or 180 degrees, and if something's directly above you, it's at 90 degrees. Well, that's forming a protractor. Well, that's what you describe the positional data of the stars in the celestial sphere with respect to a flat plane. So you can have the angles that describe them to form the basis of the system that then turns into orbits much later. But of course, he knew that it was a shadow because of orbital motion. Now, orbital motion is derived from flat plane measurements. This is absurd.
Could you imagine God coming down and explaining somebody how to turn a flat plane into a sphere like that, the way you just did?
I'm pretty sure
think God's going to do that, Bubba.
I'm pretty sure he took a few men to one side and gave them some divine knowledge about how spherical it all was, given that they're going to be measuring it at a much later date and deriving, if I could say it, orbital motions for 2,000-year-old men to have already known that there was a rock getting in the way of another rock in a motion that's derived mathematically from measurements of a flat Earth. This seems utterly absurd. His notions are absurd when you know the history of how globe and orbital motion came to pass, with measurements of a flat Earth. When you know that, this whole narrative is punting. It just seems so ludicrous.
The shadow that the Earth casts on the moon is always a circle. Right. And it doesn't matter what the orientation is. Now,
how do you know it's a shadow? It turns red. What's he babbling about?
If the Earth were a flat disk, that could only happen.
Here we go. Here's the juxtaposition by false dichotomy. If Earth was flat, I'm pretty sure that all the motions of these lights, including the moon, have been tracked with respect to their angles of flat plane at this stage. So to now juxtapose with if it was flat, what are they all measured? Oh, that's a given. I don't really understand how you can now juxtapose that within the example that uses their measurements flat to say it isn't flat. But we'll see how you get on.
Happen at midnight, because that's the only time it would project as a circle, right? Any other time, if the moon's lower in the horizon, then that means the Earth would be closer. It would cast an elliptical shadow, and if it was
this is all presuppositional in terms of his orbital motions measured off a flat plane. Nevertheless, the way that the shadow behaves in an orbital motion doesn't line up. You can have the shadow, as you assume it to be, moving in the opposite direction with respect to a ball. You can also have shadows appearing, as you assume them to be, without a lining up of the claim to be occultation by Earth. Well, if it's not occulting and you've got a Seleninian eclipse, how can you claim that it's based on orbital motion? Well, you just label that as an impossible eclipse. Why impossible? Well, because it doesn't line up with the orbital motion you're appealing to, in spite of that orbital motion coming from a flat plane measurement.
They might want to look up the definition of impossible too. Because something that's happening in your face, it's hard to call that impossible. Weird.
Yeah, impossible to the bit that's impossible is the orbital motion that can't possibly be the case and have that occur. That's the impossible bit, not the eclipse. That still happens. Their assumption of it being a shadow, and the shadow being because of an occultation in orbital motion, there's a mouthful for you, is their assumption and nothing more. Their assumption fails at the point of the impossible eclipse because it doesn't work with orbital motion. Well, who cares? We haven't got orbital motion in terms of sphericity of Earth moving around a heliocentric system with the sun at the centre of it. We don't have that. All of the claimed to be orbital motions are derived from flat plane measurements. Go ahead, Neil.
I'm saying then they're telling the truth then, in a roundabout way, like hidden, like it's an impossible eclipse. Yeah, impossible on your ball, like you're saying.
Yeah, but orbital motion's bunk. It's derived from flat plane measurements in the first instance.
Edge on it would cast just a line.
Yes.
And I actually had the opportunity to.
Wow, what a 2015 straw man that is. You just have a flat pancake in a sky vacuum, not a real photo, creating the line, when we continue to have a flat plane moving around the sun in the orbital motion derived from the flat plane that puts the Earth as a spherical protractor. This is ludicrous when you understand how your claim, your religion, your belief in a sphere comes to measurement and pass as the claim that you're now juxtaposing with a flat Earth that can't possibly work because it would create a coin-shaped shadow in an orbital motion. This is nuts. It's on another level nuts how people reconcile this. Again, it makes sense when you're in it, but when you're outside it and looking back in, going, nah, man, it was measured flat to give you this motion that you now infer with you standing on the outside edge of the protractor that was measured to give it you. Wow. You just don't even know your origins lie with respect to the flat plane that's measured to give you your globe. Well, we're here to tell you. Happy days. Please let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
Well,
You confirm.
I would like to help them out. The debunking you actually showed is a debunking of the celestial sphere as an actual model of reality. It's just a map of the stars, which is asymptotically flat. You're just using the protractor to measure angles to the stars, and the protractor is the celestial sphere. What you just gave as the coin in front of the moon or whatever is a debunking of that model, not of a flat Earth.
The problem for them being, if you debunk that model, which is admittedly being held up as though it's the flat Earth claim, it's not. It's the basis of a flat Earth being measured to give you anything from that point forward, including the globe. So if you debunk an asymptotically flat depiction of the stars by way of portraying the protractor as the stars wrapped around you as you measure angles to them, your claim to be debunking of that also debunks the origins of the globe. So you can't have it both ways. If you're going to put it in false dichotomy and say, well, this garbage representation of what a flat earther says won't work because we'll have a flat line from the coin-shaped Earth floating in the sky vacuum when it's moving around the sun in the same orbital motion we've derived from the measurements of a flat plane. Okay, well, you're essentially debunking the system that becomes the globe. And that system is flat for the globe. Where are you going with this? Oh, you don't know your origins. You just assume that the false dichotomy works because you think a flat Earth doesn't work because of a coin-shaped shadow. It is pathetic.
Confirmed this just a couple days ago on Wednesday. This happened right around the time of sunrise, just a little before sunrise. So the moon is setting in the west, the sun's rising in the east, which means I know I'm between the two because I can see the moon's there. The sun is going to rise over there.
He's got his arms out like a flat line. Sorry, east and west, as in respect to a horizontal plane of reference. Those are directions on a plane. There are no east and west on a globe. What are you talking about? If it's over there towards the horizon on your left and over there towards your horizon on your right, You're describing a flat plane. Even your arms are telling us it's flat.
There, so I know I'm in between the two.
On a flat plane. That's right.
And also because the orientation of the Earth.
You'll need a flat plane for orientation. My God. John, if you want to take up the reins, feel free. Or don't. I'll play on with disdain in my tone.
It would if it were a disk, it would be edge on, which means the shadow it would have cast would have been a horizontal line.
We got that. Is this a repetition? Have we had this?
And it wasn't.
Oh man, he's giving us a photo. Well, how joyous. I love it when they put... This is not a real photo either. Really? All right. What the pictures from the sky vacuum were. I'm pretty sure this is a real photo of the moon, actually. I'm pretty sure you just photoshopped in a line through it.
It was a round shadow, and I've got pictures to prove it. So yeah. That's just one example of many that we know that the Earth is round. The way... And
okie dokie. Moving on.
For the sea,
Nathan, we know
the mast appears...
We know the Earth is a sphere by debunking the foundations of our own claim.
Yes, that's what I tried to say. That was much more concise. We know the Earth is not flat / a sphere because we can debunk the basis of the sphere development. Well done. Well done. Kudos. You debunked the basis of your own sphere claim. Right, but you held it up in false dichotomy like it was flat, so you've done a good job by showing a coin producing a shadow in orbital motion. Great job.
First, and then the rest of the ship, and so on. And people knew that in ancient times. And so Aristotle argued that that was a good evidence that the world was round. By the time of Eratosthenes, he actually was able to measure the size of the Earth pretty accurately, actually, using light and shadows and so on. So it's
and so on off a flat plane.
Using what?
Light and shadows off a flat plane.
People have been clever for quite a while, and they've been able to figure that out.
Yeah, they figured it out with angle measurements off a flat Earth, my friend. Yeah?
Sorry, Nathan.
Hey, Brian.
Sorry, did he just say that Eratosthenes measured something using light and shadows?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He didn't use an elevation angle.
That's
there was
correct.
a shadow and there was light involved, but he didn't measure using shadows and light. He measured using an elevation angle, which is a right angle triangle.
Like the one on screen.
He measured a portion of a longitude line. That's what he measured. Horizontal.
Yeah, Earth must be flat for this example. That's correct. They all do it. John was trying to explain this to us 2 years ago. They use a flat Earth to claim it's a sphere, then they stack that up as against a false representation of a flat Earth that don't work, also based on all the same measurements that they use to develop their globe, and say that the flat Earth version fails, therefore their globe, based on a flat Earth measurement, wins. No, they're all flat in every bit of the false dichotomy. It's just you introduce a globe based on those measurements and we don't have to do anything. We just never knew it.
Well, what they do, like all they're doing is hijacking reality. They hijack reality, whether it be a natural effect or something to do with perspective, whether it be like a weather effect, perspective, whatever. They hijack that or they hijack whatever. And then they ask you to come up with a different reality after they hijacked actual reality. It's like me robbing your television and then asking you to come up with your own TV. It's like, that is my TV. Do you know what I mean? The one you robbed. Do you know what I mean? They want me and you to come up with this whole new reality when they're just hijacking the reality that already exists.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like saying, I'm going to nick your blueprints to your car, make the same car, put a different badge on it and paint it a different colour, maybe put a different interior in it, and then turn around and say that the manufacturing process for the car I've just ripped off is garbage. It's a useless piece of crap. It doesn't even exist. Mine is the good one, and it's all original and nothing to do with that car, and that's why it's good. It's like your car's based on that car. You nick the blueprints for it.
Yeah. And it's their one that doesn't work right, not our one.
Yeah, and adding the extra interior on top of the original that's in the blueprints and adding a different layer of paint makes it heavier, and all the things they've done to it make it fail. You know, they've made alterations that now make it fail completely. But the one that it's based on is garbage. So by juxtaposition, their globe is based on the flat Earth measurements, which they then say is garbage. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
And so I think that most people who believe in a flat Earth.
Yeah, we would oppose those people too, right? Because maybe it's not the case across the broad spectrum of quote-unquote flat earthers that exist out there. But here, specifically here, on Flat Earth Debate, we don't say that. We don't have a belief in flat Earth. If we were to be asserted to have a belief in flat Earth, that belief in flat Earth would be the basis of your measurements also. So in a way, by saying we believe in flat Earth, it's like, well, if you want to say that the measurements your globe is based on are based in belief, then fine, you can do so. But if you undermine them in any way, you're undermining the globe's origin, its genesis, and the measurements that you say are beliefs. They're not. But if you want to call them that, then you're undermining your own globe because it's been developed from those flat Earth measurements that you're undermining. Just so you know.
If not all of them, are not aware of how these things came to be. The fact that...
No, you aren't aware of how your globe came to be by way of angle measurements to Polaris and the latitude grid wrapped around a ball to then be projected out onto a tube to be then rolled out flat and used in things like GPS, with angle measurements being capable of a flat transverse Mercator projection. I absolutely, without question, understand how the globe fits into this narrative, and I understand the origins, the genesis of your globe. It's a flat Earth angle measurement. That's the genesis of your globe. So to infer that I, by stereotype I might add, I don't understand the origins of this stuff. No, you, sir, do not understand the origins of your globe. They're flat.
Exactly.
One, the Bible
if you asked him, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just if you asked him for the original globe Earth radius measurement, what kind of rubbish would he come up with? He doesn't know. You know, I know, we all know where that came from.
Let's
it
go
wasn't
through
a
them.
measurement. He
Well,
wouldn't even know that it wasn't even a measurement.
Let's not leave this rhetorical. Good point, Brian. There's two. The first is debunked by the Black Swan. What is it? No Atmo Day? With Al-Biruni's height measurement off a flat plane to go up to derive a difference between eye level and surface level, to claim there's a point below surface level called Earth Curve, with a physical geometric point to measure the radius from, after getting the height off a flat plane for the mountain. So when he measures a flat plane, the origin of all Al-Biruni's claims, he measures a flat plane, goes up a mountain, derives the difference between eye level and surface level, both flat, and then gives you the trig for a globe, if you've got a claimed geometric horizon. What's that you say? Always refracted? What are you, dumb flat earthers? What is it? No Atmo Day? Horizon always refracted? Yeah, that debunks two things for the globe Earth. The Black Swan, when they give us a refraction rebuttal. Number one, you can't get a geometric measurement for Al-Biruni's claim after he measures the height off a flat plane to begin with. Origins and genesis in a flat Earth, as always. Nevertheless, his derivation of a flat Earth measurement, eye level and surface level, that would be, both parallel, both flat. His inference that you've got a radial value to measure in geometric terms when you use a flat Earth is debunked by your refraction rebuttal. So that's not giving you R, so where do you get it? Well, from the second problem that also causes them, that you can't get latitude lines on the ground if the horizon being used to level the tool when measuring it with a Mariner's sextant isn't with respect to the ground because it's refracted. Last but by no means least, the actual measurement to give you the globe requires you measure Polaris, the minimum elevation angle measurement giving you the radial value for a sphere Earth, so it back engineers onto a globe. You've got to have a basis in reality if you're going to infer the globe is actually being used for anything, which it isn't. It's wrapped around you and you take center-based angles from hell, not from the surface. But you can imply that you were on the surface with parallel light rays and lots of apologetics. But the problem is, you would require that back-engineered flat Earth angle to Polaris to work on the ground for the sphere to exist in the first place. Now, with that all in tow, I would hope that this man who thinks that we're ignorant because we're flat earthers knows where to come. And if you're watching this as an audience member, smash the super chat. Please share the show. make people aware of this fantastic origin-based information for the globe, because this is offering up both sides an advanced understanding of the genesis of both globe, and if you ignore the globe because it's not needed, the flat earth measurements the globe is based on. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, sorry about that, Nathan. Yeah, they must treat the visible sea horizon as a geometric point that they can measure from to a celestial body to get latitude. But they must treat it as a geometric point or on a flat plane, because then when they back engineer those flat plane measurements, right, mathematically back engineer them to become a globe with radius 3958 whatever radius, then they must claim that the horizon that was and had to be a geometric point for them to get the latitude, latitude and longitude grid in the first place. They then have to claim that that point is now a refracted position, and the actual geometric point is somewhere below surface level on the surface of some mathematical globe.
On screen now for my audience, a measurement with respect to the horizon. So the tool, if there was a boat at the vertices of the angle where it's drawn out with a little hand-drawn in angle measurement, if this was a boat, you'd level your tool with the horizon somewhere around here and measure your angle along an extended baseline to Polaris. This is latitude measurement. It needs a flat earth to measure it. Now, if you're claiming that it's with respect to a horizon that's refracted, how are you going to level the tool to get an area of equal elevation on the ground, which is what latitude is? It can't. It fails miserably. You can't do this on a globe. You can't get the angle on a globe. If you've refracted the horizon, it's not on the ground anymore. And latitude is ground positioning. Angles off a flat plane is required. Earth must be flat. That's how the globe is made.
Yeah, Nathan.
Well, it's a good thing nobody's ever claimed the horizon's Earth curve.
Good job.
Exactly,
Oh, wait.
chocolate.
What's up, bro?
If you look at the mathematics, then that would be a correct claim. What they call the Earth curve calculator does not claim the horizon is Earth curve. They just interpret it incorrectly, and they say it. But yeah, the mathematics don't. Surface level is a horizontal plane in the mathematics.
I don't blame the person who's interpreting it or the person reading it when they read Earth curve maths, having had it hijacked from resolution loss from a couple of 100 years ago and just bastardized into something claiming that a point below surface level you're using to calculate is actually a Earth curve edge, now debunked by the Black Swan and denied by our opponents, which is epic when it comes to what latitude lines, using the horizon, leveling the tool. It's just refracted. Yeah, that balls us up this completely, doesn't it? There's no way out for a glober at this point. You know, we've got it all wrapped up, haven't we, Brian?
Yeah, there's no way around it. Nathan, is that point on the visible sea horizon that we see, that we measure from to the celestial body, is that a geometric point on the surface of Earth?
Yeah, you're navigating the surface of Earth. It
is a geometric point, but it's not a geometric point on the surface of a globe.
It can't be.
No, it's over.
Yeah, and refraction just nails further into the coffin their reluctance to admit that they've got something that blocks boats and buildings like they used to. Insane, isn't it? Their efforts to deny their own Earth curve. Madness.
Just the world's round too. The scientific evidence for it, how that was discovered, it's not a recent idea. The world's been known to be round for a very long time.
Scientific evidence. Somebody doesn't know what science is.
Hold on, I'm just dealing with something. Okay, see you in a minute. My wife's going to pick up a punctured repaired car or whatever. She should let me know.
The verses that
scientific evidence for a what is question.
I was only paying half attention because my wife was telling me that she was disappearing to pick up the car with a new tyre on it. So I just want to start the super chat and then we'll discuss it. Unitox Femu, can someone tell me how flat surface could be flat? Yeah, that's what they're asking, Sasha. Yeah. Can someone explain to me how this flat surface could possibly be flat? It produce a coin-shaped shadow. What? You nutters. Thanks for the super chat. Please share the show if you've not done so already. 115 people watching.
That feller just claimed a scientific evidence for what is question.
I see. It's a category error.
They use when you read them, you're like, how does that even remotely support a flat Earth? The one that you mentioned would be the one that I would think would be the go-to one, because you could argue four corners. So but that would make it a square.
So you could argue that four corners wouldn't be spherical. Yeah, but you've just prefaced this by making it seem like the claims are absurd when you're now justifying how that claim could work and would work and does work and isn't spherical. I don't really understand. He just poisoned the well before this, didn't he?
And you know what? Flat Earth.
On.
Well, he tried to say a few minutes ago that there was the globe was scientifically proven. Now that shows his ignorance. Shows he doesn't understand what natural science is. He also doesn't understand what geometry is, and now he seems to be going back on his poisoning of the well. That thing is no good. Anyway, that thing does have some uses. That's what I'm hearing. Do you know what I mean? That thing, it's absolutely useless, except for all the things that it's really useful for.
Earthers don't believe that. They believe it's a disk. Right. So they can't use that verse.
Oh, my bad. So because you say my stereotype fallacy model is the Flat Earth Society in a sky vacuum model, we can't say four corners. No, let's get this just lined up correctly. The Bible says four corners, so your postulation is the Bible can't say four corners means Earth, precisely as it says, because Flat Earthers' stereotype is this, says me. What an outrage! No, just accept what the Bible says. You're supposed to be a Christian. I mean, I don't care. It's not my standard. But you're decrying your own standard based on a stereotype that you've ascribed to flat earthers with this. Wow, what an overcome. I mean, good job.
Because if it's a disc, it doesn't have...
Why are you laughing? If it's a stereotyping fallacy and a false impression of a model they don't claim, we don't claim, I'm not claiming this. I'm a flat earther.
It doesn't literally have corners, so that one's not going to work.
I see. Oh, right.
Is this Danny Faulkner?
No.
Oh, it sounds like him.
What was the name of the title I was going to give the show?
This guy is a Christian, though.
How many corners
While
does
you're
a
doing that,
sphere
before we
have?
have the discussion,
Again?
what was the name I was going to ascribe to this show? I've already forgotten it, John.
Born Again Astrophysicist.
Born Again Astrophysicist. Perfect. Sorry, Brian. It's just I know you'll give me enough time.
No, he's not Danny Faulkner, but he's another.
No, his name is
Christian that's
Jason
not telling the
Lisle.
truth.
Yeah, he's a liar. His name is Jason Lisle.
How'd you spell it?
Lislie, I believe.
Lis for sugar.
Yeah.
Lie.
Yep.
Lisle.
If I remember correctly.
Jason Lisle.
LIS.
How about LIVES?
LISLI.
LIS.
Yes, a lot.
Oh my God, Neil. Can you not detect I'm trying to get a spelling and it's absolutely tedious for a live audience if you drag this out? My God, man. Can I just get the correct spelling of his bloody name? Is that possible?
Nathan, give me a second. I got to run to my computer, dude. I'm not.
No worries. But you think it's LISLIE?
No E at the end. Just I.
I. LISLI.
You got to give me a minute.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry about all that.
You're freaking safe to talk, kid! Holy shit!
Not when I was cutting off Brian.
What's wrong? Calm down, Neil.
Yeah, Neil. Chill. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I'm just saying this guy, just another Danny Faulkner. It's like any one of these people who claim to be Christians and attack the Earth being flat, or just support the globe, even if they don't attack the whole flat Earth thing. If they're supporting the globe, then they're just not Christians. I'm sorry, I can't see them as Christians. They're not, because they're not following the Christian Bible. It's that simple. I'm not a Christian, but if I was, certainly be following the Christian Bible. I wouldn't be supporting things that are not in the Bible and actually oppose what is in the Bible.
Shout out to Bible U. Says it's Lisle. Thank you very much. Just while I was still in the editing screen, I caught the chat from Paula. Thank you very much. Yeah, so it's Jason Lisle if you want to look him up. Hopefully one of the mods will look him up and put a link to his video while we're still live and there's 125 people we can send in his direction. Now that we've got his name, we can definitely get a link to his channel and let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Or whoever the channel is that's originally got this video on, even if it's not necessarily him. But yeah, the idea being that were this person to respond to some of the things that we've put to them, maybe regarding Christopher Columbus and his navigation methodology proving a flat earth, for him to contradict by baseless assertion without any evidence being provided. Things like that could be pointed out, but I'd prefer you just let him know I've sent you and maybe leave a nice comment so he doesn't immediately remove it. Hopefully, if you were to do so, and he was to make a response, he'd put a link to our video so that we could receive some algorithmic love where we are so sorely lacking it from YouTube. So that's the purpose of sending our live audience. As I say, there's 125 people watching. Very warm welcome to anybody who's just joined us. We'll stay live a little bit longer while you actually go and let this man know. Nobody's putting a link to him. Can one of the mods, I have to say it, aren't I? Please, can someone dig out a link for this? Because I don't think I've seen one go by so far to actually make this videographer aware, and I've only got a link to Vlad's Eclipse. We'll carry on with them. Hopefully someone will dig out one of the links.
I've heard them say, well, you know, the Bible talks about the surface of the earth, and the surface is always flat. I'm thinking, no, the Hebrew word for surface, panim, it means it's the same as the word for your face. My face is not flat. In fact, it's closer to a sphere than it is a flat surface.
Right.
So that doesn't work. And in fact, I dealt with a few of these actually.
Hey, that's not half bad. Could that be substantiated a little bit further? He's saying that the word for surface is the same as the word for face. Now, if someone put that to me, I've never heard that before. Anybody else? That's a new one on me. That's not bad. Is that substantiatable, if that's a word? Nobody knows. Maybe we'll have to look into it.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, but a face is not closer to a sphere.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Well, a head is. A head.
Yeah, the whole head, but not the face.
Well, okay. Yeah, I'm already feeling a bit more weaker on this position.
She wrote up an article a while back on our website, Biblical Science Institute, and I analyzed the first 10 or so biblical proofs of a flat earth, and none of them made any sense. The only one that gets even close.
I think I can dig out the clip. So if I stay on this video, watch full video, share. Yeah, here we go. It's on Justin Peters' channel. So it's going to be Justin Peters that you're letting know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And there is, just so I can show I have actually done this, put a link to his video in the live stream chat to direct the, well, there's 120 people watching now, but 120 odd, 125 odd people to his video. Maybe the 25, maybe the 5 have just disappeared literally now to go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hopefully he'll put a link to our video if he were to respond.
Would he be willing to tell us what them 10 things are? Because just like Danny Faulkner and the other people, they just don't say what these things are. They just say, them things are no good. Those things in the Bible, the things in the book I'm supposed to follow. And they don't tell people what those things are. They don't name them out, what book they're in, what section, none.
I don't mind just using his as is the only thing he referenced. Oh, there's now 125. There must have been 5 people literally going to let him know. Yeah, I'd just say circle. Circles are flat. It's 2-dimensional. How can you describe a circle as anything other than flat? You can't. I'll just use your references. See? According to your citations from the Bible, it's flat. Circles are flat.
That the king had, that Daniel had to interpret. Remember that, where there's this, well, there's more than one, but there's one vision where there's a mountain that it can be seen from all the earth. And
Right.
so you know, well, that's a vision though. That's not.
Hold on, it already sounds like you're making an apology for this. So the argument, as I understand it from this so far, is in the Bible there's a mountain. Again, this is unfamiliar to me as an argument, but the mountain can be seen from everywhere on Earth. Right, that's not conducive with a sphere. There'd be a globe, Earth, sphere edge, horizon in the way for a lot of people. So, okay, that argument stacks up.
It's meant to be taken as literal.
Did you
He
say it's
already gave
not
the reasoning, though.
Sorry, sacrilege. Did he just say the Bible's not to be taken literally?
That it can be seen from all the earth, and
Right.
so you know. But well, that's a vision, though. That's not meant to be taken as literal.
Oh, I see. Just don't take the Bible literally, is your rebuttal. I see. I'm pretty sure Paula, formerly Bible literalist, would have something to say about that. No, you take the literal parts literally, and you take the allegorical parts allegorically, and you take the metaphors as though they're metaphors. It's normally, in fact, always, I'm going to go out on a limb without even knowing it based on what I've learned from Paula. It's always detailed and contextualized for you to understand if it needs to be taken literally or needs to be taken allegorically. If there's an example with a story, the story is contextualized. But you just turning around and saying, don't take it literally? How dare you call yourself a Christian?
As literal
These
narrative.
are not the words of God you are looking for.
Yeah, these are not the words of God you are looking for, hand wave. What an outrage. I'm not even a Christian and I'm outraged.
Or the other one that they'll try to use is they'll say, well, Jesus, when Satan took him to a tall mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world. But in one gospel, it says in a moment in time, indicating that this was a vision. It wasn't that he was literally seeing all the...
So he's just going to repeat it. This is this guy's standard. Say it, reiterate it by repeating it. That's his standard. It's garbage. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I got in a little bit late, right? So he basically is telling us that we shouldn't take the Bible literally, right? Okay.
Yes.
Maybe before I got here, did he assert that anything in the Bible should be taken as proof for the globe?
Yes, he did. Circle.
So should we take that literally or no?
No, he also inferred that somebody had been taken aside by God to give him divine knowledge of it being sphere-shaped. That wasn't referenceable, but he lent on it anyway.
But according to him 30 seconds ago, I shouldn't take him literally on anything that he claims is proof in the Bible for the globe.
Maybe,
okay,
but that would have worked if only 3 minutes ago I said I'm going to just take his standard of saying it's circular in the Bible by his own citation, therefore circles, two-dimensional, a flat. I'm good with that. But if you're saying now we could just not take that literally either by his own standard, yeah, but I will. Yeah? I might not be a practicing Christian, but I understand from having a good enough education from Paula, very specifically from Paula, in the chat right now. Go and subscribe to a Bible U. She does an exceptional job of explaining why you would take something that very specifically details to be taken literally, or makes an absolutely over apparent, really easy to understand reference to how it's allegorical or comparative. The Bible's well worded. It's shocking that that it would be well worded and well phrased and make it clear when it's using an example or an allegory. Oh my god. But this guy just says don't take it literally. Yeah, but that's right, Chocolate, before Neil rumpus your hopeful conclusion. Chocolate.
Yeah, I agree. That was my point. Like I walked into him saying that there are certain things that prove the globe in the Bible. So him just now saying, "Oh, this mountain that they're talking about that could be seen from the entire Earth," I don't take that literally because that would be impossible if we all lived on a magical spinning water ball. So yeah, just skip that part. Thanks.
Yep.
Paul is trying to join. That's all I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. I want to see her flash up. If I hear a ding dong, I'll let her in.
You know what it seems to me? It seems to me that these
that was
people...
me starting the video.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry. You know what it seems to me, Nathan, and everyone else? It seems to me that the people who are no believers and Christians, they suffer from the same problems as people who are just globe believers. They don't understand the thing they believe in. So then they go off half-cocked, making all kinds of claims that are incorrect. It seems to me they're just ignorant of both beliefs as opposed to just being ignorant of one.
What going off half-cocked means?
Go on.
It's a gun reference. So if you've got a black powder-based gun and you've got your wadding and you've shoved your ball in, and then you only cock the hammer halfway, you'll pull the trigger, or you'll do a flash from the gunpowder in the little tray that you've put down, but the gun won't actually go off. Yeah? Half cocked.
Yes, makes sense.
Not that that's really useful for this subject, but I just thought it was a bit of trivia.
So they say, well, there's a mountain therefore where you can see all the earth. And then my question is, if that's the case, where is this mountain? And why can't I see it? Right? Because if there was literally a mountain there where you could see everywhere on earth, then everywhere on earth should be able to see that mountain. But you can't. In the middle of Kansas, you don't see any mountains. Right. You see nothing.
Oh my God.
What's wrong with that? Why are you saying, oh my God?
Is there a reason why he's not in Genesis? Why are we here? I don't use these proofs as a Christian. I go to Genesis. Why are we not in Genesis, Mr. Christian?
Stop. Okay, I don't need you to readdress the standard to what you would claim. I've heard what he said. He's saying, okay, if you're going to say there's a mountain that can be seen from everywhere on Earth as a proof that Earth must be flat for this to be the case as the Bible describes, just show it me then. Show me a mountain that can be seen from everywhere. Oh, there isn't one. Oh, well, that undermines that claim, doesn't it, Neil?
Not really.
Why not?
Because topology changes. Topology changes.
Topology changes. Yeah, it does.
Right. So a mountain that existed 2,000 years ago may not exist today.
It's a stretch.
so that doesn't make any sense. So there is no verse that says, well, the Earth's flat, or there are verses that talk about, the pillars of the Earth, again, in a kind of a poetic way, but that doesn't make it flat. That just means it's supported, which of course it is.
What's the
how many pillars does a sphere have?
No.
And how many corners also? Just checking.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to get the link.
Have an unlimited amount.
I think we're going to be joined by Paula. I was just trying to dig her out the link, but Diversion Droid's done it for me.
The mantle supports the crust and so on. So a lot of it has to do with very bad eisegesis, reading into the text.
That's a new word, eisegesis. What does that mean?
Based on your presupposition.
Say again.
I've heard Paula use that term before.
I don't know what that means.
Rather than exegeting the text and seeing what the text has to say. Because
exegeting the text. Man, this guy's got... That's a first. 2 new words in as many seconds. Exegeting? What does that mean? Anybody?
Never heard it before.
Exegeting? That's a new word on me. No? Anybody? Exegete? Hello, Paula.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, finally. It just took like 500 clicks to get here. But eisegesis, hey, X and I are the prefixes. X is out of, ice is into. So eisegesis is reading into. Exegesis is reading out of. So and some people pronounce it eisegesis. It depends on which Greek pronunciation you like. But anyway, that's what it means. Reading, eisegesis is reading out of something, is putting something into the text that doesn't belong there. So. But I was going to comment on on Genesis 1, how the literal issue, and I'm about to start. Starting next week, I'm going to do a series on Falling Flat book. I'm going to go through every note I highlighted, and I've got many hundreds of notes. So, but one of the things I get into is how inconsistent they are with Genesis 1, because in the same context of Genesis 1, historical narrative, it's not poetry, even though they wrote their historical narrative in a more poetic way than we would. That's the genre. And Genesis 1 is the introduction or summary to the book ahead of time. And so it is compared to chapter 2, it is the sequential chapter, whereas chapter 2 just goes back and adds detail. And so chapter 1 is telling us about the time and the construction. They only want to take it literally when it talks about time. They're very hyper literal on the time, and they've always had people breathing down their necks about, you can't take it literally. And then said, oh, yes, we can. Look, it says evening and morning, day one. And I agree. It does say that. But they turn around in the same context, interweaved with the statements about time or statements about construction, and they say, oh, you flat earthers, you take it hyper literally. What utter hypocrisy.
What statements of construction are you referring to?
Genesis 1, where how God made, God said, let there be light. God put lights in the firmament. That's constructing the realm. Okay. How long it took to do that is the timing statements.
Okay.
So young earth creationists like Answers in Genesis and Creation Research Institute and stuff like that, they'll take that all very literally. And they justify it from the text and say, and even Michael Heiser, recently deceased,
Hold on, before you get onto Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Paula. I've just got a square that needs circling. You say they take that very literally. I don't know why I'm getting goosebumps over this. This makes no sense to me, which is why I've interrupted you. If you say they take that section literally, and Genesis describes him putting the stars up before the sun and moon, how can they square that circle if in the heliocentric model, gravitational accretion creates the sun which blows out all the planets, and then you have a day and night cycle following the creation of the sun? So I'm struggling to understand how you can say that Danny Faulkner would adhere to Genesis very literally, as you just suggested, if they have a heliocentric belief, because there's a contradiction in there. Unless I'm very much mistaken about my knowledge of Genesis. Stars first, sun and moon second, correct?
It is in utter contradiction between heliocentrism / evolution and the Bible. There's no way to reconcile them.
Yeah, but based on specifically the order in Genesis. Am I wrong? I'm not 100% certain of the Bible. That's why I'm questioning my own knowledge, my own
the order logic. The order of creation in the Bible is not at all compatible with evolutionary theory, which heliocentrism is based upon. And that's one of the points I'm going to make in my first video, is you can't have Big Bang cosmology without evolution, and you can't have modern astronomy without Big Bang cosmology. But they try their darndest to keep the results of the Big Bang and evolution without the causes. And it's inconsistent on that and just a science and logic basis, let alone a biblical basis.
I've just thought of another contradiction. I just want Paula to verify this, because if I'm wrong on what the Bible says, that's the worst possible outcome here. But am I also right in saying that God creates the sun and moon as their own self-producing lights, individual of each other, whereas in the heliocentric model, one is dependent on the other for light?
It doesn't come out and say verbatim the moon produces its own light. It says it has its own light. That it's not trying to tell you how this happens. Okay, it's not giving a cause for the moon's light.
No, but
that's
not
all
cause,
we can say for sure.
It is its own light, though, right? It is in and of itself.
Yeah, right. It is, and the way they're described is the greater light and the lesser light. It doesn't even call it the sun and moon.
Greater and lesser light is two things, not one light producing light for the other, which is the heliocentric version.
Right.
I'm just, off the top of my head, there's various contradictions. Back to my original point, though, but you inferred that they would take the Genesis description literally. That's what you said.
Yeah, they do. When it talks about how long it.
If we go verbatim of what it says, is that God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go, Paula. I'm just intrigued how you square that circle with them taking it literally, but having the contradiction in heliocentrism.
It's not my circle is square. It's
Fair enough.
their
That's a good
problem.
answer. It's not your problem.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying, oh, it's hyper literal when it talks about how long it took, but it's not. You can't take it literally when it talks about how it was made, how it was constructed, what shape anything is. When the Bible talks about he put the sun and moon and stars in the firmament, and it says in, but you can take that two ways. And I can get back to that later, but they don't take that literally. Unless they redefine firmament, and that's what they do. They take it as the sky. I'm sorry?
I know it's not your square to
you
circle.
might talk to Adam.
Just want one more thing.
Yeah.
How can they take the timeline seriously when you've got that doesn't fit in Big Bang evolution timelines when you're talking about one day for certain huge events?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, go ahead,
How
John.
they justify that?
Point.
Was it John or Brian?
Just a second. Well, both of us are trying to say the same thing. And Paula, you should have a chat with Adam, because Adam was making. I'm not going to. I'm going to leave John talk as well. Sorry, I won't try and steal your thunder or anything. That was what we were trying to get in earlier. Adam was making some very, very good points concerning people like Danny Faulkner and what they're claiming, while also claiming to be Bible adhering Christians. I won't go into what it is. If John wants to, maybe he will. He can't. But Paul, you should have a little chat with Adam as he points out some things that would be very, very good for what you're doing. Thank you.
Yep, that was what I was getting ready to say. He's talking about the light year and how if you believe that in a young Earth as a heliocentrist, you can only believe that you can see between 6,000 and 7,000 light years.
No, you can't even do that. There can't even be one light year, if you know what I mean. There can't be 6 or 7,000 years as opposed to a light year. The spans of time they're claiming within heliocentrism are well beyond what would be claimed by someone who's truly a Christian.
Can I just drop in what my uncle was a pastor. I think he was practicing when I asked him these questions specifically about how the Bible would square certain circles. And I gave the timeline, I believe. You have to go back to the 10-year-old video to listen to the exact phraseology of my questioning to him. But he squared this circle by saying that the original text doesn't define what a day is, but does, or moreover, specified that a day is a period of time. Therefore, to square the circle, a day could mean tens of thousands of years in the context of the Bible. That was how he squared the circle.
Yeah, that's called the day-age theory. There's also a gap theory and all sorts of other theories and ways to try to make the Bible bend and twist to contort to science, so-called. But the problem, again, is, I mean, everybody can see this but them, that there's a wild inconsistency with trying to just keep modern astronomy and the Bible and the young age, especially, because there are old Earth creationists too. But the young Earth creationists have a bigger problem, not because Earth isn't young, but because they say it must be young but cannot be flat. And that's their problem to solve, and they can't solve it, not honestly. And the thing about days is that it's the Hebrew word yom, and yes, depending on context, it can mean various things. Every word has a semantic range. And the semantic range, if you look up in a dictionary any given word in any language, it'll have a range of meanings that they derive from the context in which that word is used. I always use the example of the word trunk. Is it an elephant's nose, a box with a lid, male swimwear, the base stem of a tree, the back end of a car in the US? It depends on context. And so it is with the word day. In Genesis 1, I don't know how you could be any more specific than to say evening, morning, day 1, evening, morning, day 2. If they wanted to portray literal 24-hour days, I don't know how they could do it.
I don't know what day, you can tell me which one it is. I don't know which day the sun and moon is added within the Genesis, but as soon as the sun is added, I mean, that's 24 hours.
But it's defined before that, but it's already given. Just kudos, Paula. Describing it within the semantic range and then giving the example early morning and late evening is pretty hyper specific, I would say. right? That's the standard. I just want to give you a plug after you said that, right? Where we say we're on the cutting edge of flat Earth, and Paulo, I would include you in that. We're not on the cutting edge of hermeneutics and semantic ranges from Hebrew. You know, we aren't. Paula is. If you're not subscribed to Paula, that's the standard. If you want to get into Christian literalism, that's the standard, right? And very, very few people that I've ever encountered meet that standard that Paula's at. Very few. So just give Paula
That's
props. Hopefully
also
someone will stick a link to her in the live stream chat. There's a good 120 people watching. Regardless if I'm not a practicing Christian, and I love Paula's channel because of the language knowledge that she portrays, and she's using it with something that's got the best primary source, referenceable, backable information when it comes to it. The Bible has a very, very high standard, so I like it because of the standard that she can attain when referencing the information and giving translations and giving a semantic range within the translation. The standard's so high over Paula's, and I don't mind if she's blushing right now, she should be, but that's the standard, isn't it? Hope everyone in the panel just agrees with me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
and
and I
that's
would like
also
to point
where
out
the
I would put
understanding
Paula
of the
against
word
this guy.
that's also where you asked about eisegesis. That means reading into the text, and that's exactly what your uncle did when he didn't look at the context of the word yom, which literally means 24-hour days, and said it could be thousands or millions of years. That's what is called eisegesis. Exegesis is a literal interpretation, a historical, grammatical interpretation of the Word of God, and it informs our understanding of the truth, rather than us imposing upon the text, eisegesis, what it should say according to our preconceptions.
Right.
God,
Very, very good. So what you're saying is only the latter is relevant. So who came up with the former to justify their interpretations, I wonder? Maybe you can't give me an answer to that, but it'd be interesting to know who came up with these split definitions. Eisegesis being one that, what, you're going to interpret the words? Who are you?
Well,
well, first, just let me say I really appreciate your high remarks, opinion, whatever, of the work that I do, because it's very rare I get so many negative comments. And I never got a chance to thank you for when you said that. It was like a year or so ago when you said that before. And I really appreciate that, because it's like being a musician. You practice and practice and practice, and nobody hears you until the performance, and then they think, "Oh, that sounded easy," you know. So that's kind of what I always thought research was supposed to be. But what Faulkner and Lisle here and these other people are saying in this video are doing is nothing of the sort. It's more anecdotal evidence. It's just ad hoc fallacies, making up things on the spot, reacting with, I would say, very superficial, knee-jerk responses to things. And that's pretty much what the Falling Flat book does throughout. And that's why I'm going to go over it.
But it's more an appeal. I just want to get this across. It's part of the plug for Paula, and yeah, great. I'm being thanked for all the complimentary words, but they're all true. And I want to reiterate it for a specific reason. That's that non-Christians take heed. When I say that's the standard, I mean generally. That is the standard that we should all try to attain with everything. Now, when I look for a good standard in someone else's videography when they're citing stuff, and you've heard it in the critique of the guy that we've had on screen, right? Where's your primary source for that? What are you using to justify that? Paula meets that standard immediately. But she then takes that standard with primary sources that she slaps her opponents around with left and right, and then goes into the pre-translation, how we've interpreted it, the explanations for why we've interpreted it. All of those things are above and beyond just primary source citation. You know, so above and beyond. Now, notice I haven't referenced the Bible, although in many instances that is the primary source. I'm not mentioning it because this is a generalized standard that you should try and apply to anything that you do when it comes to English and communication and believing what people say. Well, how do you assess the standard of what someone tells you and whether or not you should take it to be true? Well, it is based on the standard that's demonstrated on every single video that Paula does. That's the standard. I don't mean that's the Christian standard. If you're looking into the Bible, no, that's not what I'm saying. You know, everybody should be subscribed to you, Paula. You know, eventually that should be the highest standard. It grieves me to hear that you get nothing but criticism, or give an example where you're that highly polished musician that can play a 12 string on both hands and make it sound like an entire band coming from one instrument, and they play for an audience of 5 and no one claps, and one guy goes, yeah, I can do that. Now play bass.
That's how they describe the difference between rock and jazz. In rock, you play 3 chords for 1,000 people, and in jazz, you play 1,000 chords for 3 people.
Right, exactly.
That's correct, Paula.
That was a brilliant analogy.
I was just going to blow some smoke right quick. Oh.
Well, Brian can go after, although he was waiting in the wings. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would put Paula up against this guy and any 10 experts that he could hand pick, and Paula would destroy all of them.
Yep.
But they would be like the Black Knight in Monty Python, and 'tis but a flesh wound.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. At the tip of the spear, that's what we deal with, and that's what you deal with. But yours is an English literacy standard that's so far above and beyond what we do here. We're at the cutting edge of flat Earth, but that is such a low bar by comparison to what you do, Paula. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry to add that in.
Yeah, Nathan, you need to calm down now, right? it's not a low
No,
bar.
let him go.
No, I don't mean any disrespect to your point there, but I know you're saying let him go. He's blowing as much smoke up your ass as possible. Be warned, he might be asking you for a loan of money before the day is out. The thing about it is, what people must realise is, back when a lot of the books is the Bible, basically all the Bible was, even the newest part of the Bible was written, nobody was claiming it was a globe. This rubbish about it's been claimed to be a globe for thousands of years, that's a load of rubbish. There's been no globe before Johannes Kepler and Copernicus. That's when the globe turned up. There was no globe before that. So
even from before Christ,
1 second.
The Greeks were claiming it was a globe because of their idea that the sphere was the perfect shape.
Let's just hear him, Brian. Hold on. Let's just
all
hear
the
him,
way
though.
back to
Let's see what he's
Aristotle.
on.
Brian's going to hate me.
Plato.
I know it's objectionable.
It's
We're going to
history.
hear it unimpeded, though, Brian. I'm really sorry. Go ahead. Was that Nathan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's just history that there are philosophical ideas that the Earth was a globe from Plato and then through Aristotle. Aristotle had the biggest influence on European education all the way through to the Reformation. And so there was an understanding that the Earth was a sphere.
Hold on, he's nearly there.
That's the history.
Don't be triggered. Just let him get to the end of the statement. Go ahead.
No, it's Neil jumping.
But it's not necessarily Christian history.
Yeah, it's Neil. I heard this 100 times.
Let me deal with it.
There's also Christians, Lactantius in the 4th century AD, and before that, Cosmas Ecumpletius, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, in the early 1st and 2nd centuries were teaching that the Bible and that the true understanding of creation was flat. But the idea that it was always understood as flat from all the cultures is not true. Look at Plato. Look at Aristotle. They clearly.
Let me summarize the list. Let me just summarize the list, and then he's done. I'm pretty sure. Go ahead.
And I wanted to. So those are the 2 Greek philosophers
Can we
that
deal
taught
with
it
that
was a globe.
before you go on?
All right.
I sense
All
a
right.
second point that you want to make, but can Brian just deal with that first? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Plato and Aristotle were both master astrologers and numerologists. And astrology is done with the presumption of all the sky is just a group of cycles, and it all takes place over a flat plane. There is no globe in astrology. So you want to maybe do a little bit more research as opposed to listening.
No, you're
to
making the
rubbish
Hold on,
mistake.
Brian.
that's
Hold
being
on. Hold on. Before you tell him what he
angles.
needs to do, go ahead. Do you want to respond to that, Nathan?
The mistake that you're making is that you recognize how they did their astronomy by looking from the surface of the Earth, but they were making the wrong assumption that the Earth was a globe,
I
which
said
gave the
astrology.
spherical heavens.
No, they didn't.
I said astrology, not astronomy. Astrology.
Brian's rebuttal you
Astrology
haven't
works through
addressed. Hold on,
cycles
Brian.
over a horizontal
Hold on,
plane.
Brian. He's saying that the methodology that they assess the stars with, yeah, is flat.
Was erroneous.
Well, no, because that's what they're using. They're measuring that. That's the basis of it.
No, they made the false assumption that the Earth was a globe, and then they said that's what gives us the celestial sphere.
No, they didn't.
Rather than what?
No,
they
didn't.
didn't.
They didn't.
No, that's wrong.
They took measurements and inferred the celestial sphere based on a parallel plane because they're using angle measurements.
Celestial sphere. The celestial sphere has its
understand
origins in perspective.
You're more advanced than them, actually. But they looked at the sphere.
Hold on. Your inference fails. If you're going to suggest that what they're deriving a celestial sphere from comes from a spherical surface, it can't. That's Brian's point. So your suggestion that, they were misinterpreting the starting point as spherical. They can't misinterpret the starting point as spherical. That's how they're getting their measurements.
That's how everybody that believes that the Earth is a globe makes the mistake.
Not a mistake.
They look at the.
It's not a mistake though. It's a measurement. That's their starting point. It's what they measure. It seems
doesn't
absurd.
mean that it's
I can feel
logical, but
the
that's what they
tension
did.
because of the way it seems so objectionable. Because if they're to be taken at their word, if you take what is not primary source information as read, that they are saying it's spherical. No. In terms of the astrology that they do, it cannot be inferred that they could take it as anything other than what they measure. Regardless of if it is in the narrative that they suggest, therefore sphere, how can it be? It doesn't work in terms of what they're actually doing as astrologers.
That's the logical and rebuttal of their false assumptions.
No, it's
but
not.
They did.
Stop. There's no false assumption.
He's saying the same thing.
I know he is. It's not a false assumption because they're not assuming anything. They're making measurements as astrologers.
They are assuming a globe.
No, they're not.
I mean,
That's the point.
No,
It just keeps rinsing and repeating. They're not. That's Brian's point. I've tried to reiterate it multiple times. By virtue of them being astrologers.
Aristotle taught that the Earth was a globe. Is that what you need?
Doesn't matter what he thinks. Does
It
it?
doesn't matter what people say, he said. You have to understand, a lot of people are taking famous names from the past. A lot of heliocentrism take famous names from the past, and then they try and say, oh, they said this or they said that. They can produce no evidence of this.
Doesn't matter what he says, right? The evidence that they use is based on what they'll be measuring. And if, as astrologers, they can only be dealing with it and measuring it and assessing it in a flat way. So to say, well, here's a bit of text that I infer where they say, Earth definitely spherical, end quote. Okay. Does it matter? What's he got to actually substantiate what he says? We're going to go to evidence-based claims, not what one man, regardless of age, timeline, or non-primary source evidence, suggests he said. I can say, Earth giant turnip, end quote, Nathan Oakley, 1980. So what? Yeah, I did say it. I just said it. Doesn't mean anything.
Authority, appeal to authority, right?
Oh.
Because people will appeal to the authority.
No, that's a fallacy.
Right. Exactly. That people appeal to the authority of the Greek cosmologists, that they did claim that it was a sphere, but they were making measurements using angles, which we all know what that proves.
Yes.
But it doesn't, I'm not arguing with that at all, but I'm saying.
Can I ask Nathan a question? Nathan is speaking there.
Yamaha, Nathan, yes.
Yeah, do you understand? Do you understand the difference between heliocentrism and geocentrism when it comes to a globe?
Absolutely. They taught geocentric.
Could you, at any, just 1 second, could you at any point in your life point to where there was a geocentric globe paradigm produced to you? For you to see what supposedly they believed before Kepler. Because it's really Kepler, besides Copernicus, it's really Kepler gave them the globe, the heliocentric globe. So before that, where is there a geocentric globe paradigm detailed?
All of them, all of the Greeks, as I just said.
No.
I mean, you obviously haven't looked into the history.
No, let me just debunk that, right? For the globe to exist, they need to have if we just base off just one thing in the sky, just the sun. We won't even go into the rest of it yet, just the sun. They need a sun that is massive in size and a big, huge distance away, right? Just to explain the shadow angles we see in reality. So that will be the starting point for our geocentric globe, would be this massive sun that would have to orbit, or a big sun at a big distance, whatever it would be, that would have to, according to their claims, that would have to orbit their globe. Now, what about the rest of this claimed solar system? And the star field and all this, how does that all work on a globe, on the surface of a globe, where the globe is stationary and that rotates around it? How does that work?
How does the celestial sphere? Sorry, could you?
Yeah, the point I'm making
say it again
is the point I'm making to you is if you're dealing with a situation where we're not on a globe that's rotating once a day and is orbiting the sun in an offset elliptical, a big huge sun in an offset elliptical orbit over a 12-month period, then the globe paradigm can't exist. It can only exist within that heliocentric paradigm. It can't exist geocentrically. It can't work geocentrically. In any way,
I mean,
the only thing that can work geocentrically is a horizontal plane.
If you look at the history of the Greek cosmologists that they debated the shape of the Earth, Plato, Aristotle, they taught a geocentric Earth stationary system where the celestial heaven rotated around the Earth. This was the common understanding.
That's my
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing the validity of it, but I'm saying that is the history of what they taught.
Yeah, but it would be impossible for them to teach that.
One second.
Sorry, Bray.
Just a second.
People teach lies all the time.
I can guarantee you that what they're teaching in schools, primary schools, in the city I'm from in Ireland now, right, to the children, right, is completely different. The history they're teaching them is completely different than the history I was taught only 40 years ago. So when someone says, in history they done this, they can change history in a generation. So that's not a standard. I'm sorry, but history is not a standard in that way. Because history is continually changed by those who are in power and decide they want to change it. So when they say all these people were debating about the shape of the Earth and whether it was a sphere or flat or whatever, no, there's no evidence there whatsoever for that outside of those who are saying it because they have a reason to say that.
That's silly. The victors write history, but there is history and there are primary sources of the writers of the Greek cosmologists.
So what have you got?
They taught.
Perfect. So what have you got?
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me. I can bring them back.
Yeah, I want to see that
another time.
But what are they and what do they say, more importantly?
Aristotle, I mean, I'm just going to be repeating it. Aristotle taught the Earth was a sphere, that it was geocentric, that the celestial sphere rotated.
In what way does he say those specific words, or in what manner? Does he offer measurements and say Earth's a sphere? Is he just dropping it into a conversation with his mate? In what way? What will this primary source show specifically? What language is it in?
Could I step in and can we table this until he can get his primary sources? Because I'm sure he doesn't have them in front of him. Can we table it and move on?
Fine. Yes, we can. Good point, John.
Can I connect it to the other point I wanted to make about understanding? Nathan, you were talking about this is the standard, referring to Bible U, that we should apply to everything. And I just wanted to draw a connection there. In Christian theology, there's two different realms that we deal with according to our knowledge of God. The first realm is natural revelation. So that's physics. Physics is the word natural. And these are the things that we observe that's being discussed on this debate show, every day. And this is one way that we can recognize by looking at what has been created, that we see the handiwork of God, that it is a divine power that has ordered creation, that has created the earth, heaven above, earth below, etc. Even as the clear interpretation of exegesis of the Bible shows. That's natural revelation. So most Christians also accept special revelation, and that would be the scripture also reveals to us a special knowledge about who God is and his son, what his son Jesus Christ did to save us from our sins. He is the only one that's ascended into heaven because he came down to earth to be our savior. And then after dying on the cross, rising, he ascended again. So I just wanted to make that connection that this is actually a theological topic, considering the natural revelation that we see of God's handiwork, the Creator making creation for us. So
well said.
It's not. So thank you.
Yeah. Let me caveat that with this. For the invisible things of him are clearly seen, even his power and Godhead, being understood by the things that are made, so that they are without excuse.
I don't know.
And
what to
that's
make.
why everyone should be a
Hold on. I
Christian.
followed along really well until AI said that, and I don't know how to interpret that now. I followed you, Nathan. AI, do you want to explain what you mean?
Yeah, no problem. So that's from the Bible, which basically says that everybody knows there's a creator because the creation is self-evident that's the case, basically.
It essentially means we're accountable to God because we know that he created heaven and earth and us, and that everybody should be a Christian. And that's why the gospel is said to be that we need to spread it. And actually, the truth about the natural world is a form of evangelism. That's why I'm interested in it. Because as soon as lies come in, as soon as the eisegesis begins, then the truth is subverted and the reality of God, God's creation, our salvation comes into question. And that's why many people leave the Christian faith, because they read the Bible and they say, from the scientific revolution of the Middle Ages in the 16th century and forward, the scientists, quote unquote, undermine the Bible, and they don't take it literally, and so they say it's lies, so it's not trustworthy. But as Bible U shows that it's completely reliable.
You said perfect.
All right, let me caveat that. So
go ahead, AI.
Yeah, but some will say that AI's.
Oh, Neil's going to object to you.
In
Let's
the
have
future,
it before. Hold on, the AI. Otherwise, we'll have both of you talking.
Right,
go
ahead.
on, Neil, then AI. So we just don't have you rumpusing him.
I'm not objecting anything he said. I'm saying some people will take what AI read and equate it with ether. That's all I was going to say.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, AI.
So this is a good point that a lot of people they come to terms with their religious convictions, whatever they may be, and then this idea of science, and they have to reconcile the two or abandon one or the other, right? And we all know that most people side with scientific claims over plainly written claims in their scripture. Not just the Bible, but other scriptures as well have claims that are contradictory to quote unquote science. And in the future, I'd like to play one on here. There's this excellent one where this guy is so sincere and he basically sounds like he's a flat earther up until the end, when he basically confesses that, okay, I had to reconcile that the Bible's a flat earth book, and that's why I left my religion, because it's obvious that it's a globe. But the whole entire time up until that, he's like a flat earther telling you a plea. It's really quite powerful.
I didn't expect the ending. So you're saying at the end of that process, once it's put in a false dichotomy with pseudoscience versus what the Bible says, he comes to the conclusion that he needs to abandon what he would have perceived till that point as the word of God over pseudo. He's put pseudoscience before the word of God. Wow, I wasn't expecting that ending.
Which is why I would consider it treason by Christians who abandon the Bible in favor of science, because, as I'd like to say, the Bible is not a science textbook, but they treat science textbooks like the Bible.
Right.
They make them the highest authority, and so that is treason. I mean, if they believe that the Bible is the word of God, that's what it is.
Yeah, Neil's interrupting you for the right reason. Yeah, exactly, Neil. So that's where Quantum Eraser's first gambit in this forum of Flat Earth was the most useful in that regard, right? When we connect this back to the Bible, recognition of the creation and creator, you have this false dichotomy where people will literally leave over pseudoscience because they think it's proven. They've been duped into thinking that the word that's being used when it comes to, let's say, astronomy, claimed to be, according to an astronomer who's a Christian, observed science. Okay, so then there's a word in the language bin that's being used and pulled out of by, in this case, a Christian astronomer, Danny Faulkner, who I'm referring to justify with a word that means proof, that's science, his pseudoscience descriptions of the stars. And based on that, a Christian will take the words literally up until the point that it's contradicted by said pseudoscientist, claiming to have proof with lies about what science actually is. Amazing.
And the great irony of Faulkner's book, just real quick, is that he is afraid that flat Earth will draw people away from Christianity, when in fact it's evolution and what he supports as a cosmologist.
Sorry, Paula, for stepping on you there, but my question is actually for you. Neil, I'm not asking Neil this question because you're here. No offense, Neil. But I'm not asking Neil the question because I don't want to seem like I'm bypassing you, right? Because I consider you to have the most information.
You're going to offend somebody no matter what you do. Go ahead.
Okay. What is the earliest? Neil has mentioned Martin Luther and someone else was going against people claiming the Earth was a globe. What is the earliest known example of people who are Christians or Bible-believing Christians going against the Earth being a globe? And the reason I ask that is that this claim about the Earth being claimed to be a possible globe for thousands of years, that there should be text there or something in history to show that people who are Bible believers and possibly even people who are Muslim going against this claim. There'd have to be a history there of that prior to Martin Luther and whoever else. There'd have to be a long history of people having a problem with this. There'd have to be.
And the question is, what gets written down? I mean, we can only go by what evidence we have from documents and so forth, that whether anybody was allowed to express such a thing, because even translating the Bible into your native tongue could get you tortured and killed. So a lot of times things that were controversial were not written just because people were afraid for their lives. So I wouldn't rely on that heavily. That's why I don't look into that aspect of things and historically, because they're really not going to prove anything either way. So it's the same with any topic, especially when the church got state authority, which was a huge problem. You now could be arrested for a wrongthink, and so you just kept things to yourself. I forget the name of the monk that was about the same time as Martin Luther, who reached the same conclusion as Luther did about what was wrong with the Roman Catholic teachings, but he kept them to himself and wrote them in a scroll and hid them in the wall because he didn't want to face the backlash. So as far as who said what, I think this is all a sideshow, a red herring, because who cares if we're asking, like in this video, what the Bible says about something, then that's where we should go. It's like Neil said earlier, why aren't we looking at the Bible? We're looking every place but the Bible. And then if you're going to do observation, you do observation.
Yeah, but my question was slightly different. Just 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. My question was slightly different, Paula. Is there any history of people prior to Martin Luther and this monk and whoever else? Is there any history prior to their time of people saying, no, this is rubbish? But the reason I'm asking that is there should be history there. If people were claiming it was a globe, there should be history there of people going against that. Maybe at that time, you're talking about... Maybe, 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. Maybe at that time, it was possible that you get killed for going against it. But there was surely times prior to that you wouldn't get killed for going against it. The point I'm making is there isn't a history that I'm aware of. Now, maybe who's going to come in here now might have some information prior to that time of anyone saying that. And that tells me that this globe thing is only a couple of 100 years old.
Yeah, I agree.
I know it can only be that. I'm just attacking the claim that it's thousands of years old again.
References now. I have the primary references.
Okay.
First, I'll give the flat Earth Christian.
Because you're going to contextualize them and hopefully stick them in chat for us.
This is the... Sorry, it's a little delay, so I'm not trying to speak over you.
It's okay.
The earliest that I'm aware of in the...
Just stop for a sec. I want you to kind of tell us what you're going to tell us and stick it in chat so we can actually reference them, as in look at them. So hopefully if you can stick it in the chat, one of the mods will actually put it in
sorry, I'm on my mobile phone, so the earliest Christian reference to the flat Earth is Lactantius, Lactantius, of the 3rd century, and he was refuting the Greek philosophers who taught a spherical Earth, and Lactantius, in his commentary on the sorry, I just lost it. His commentary on creation says that it's foolishness to believe in antipodes, because that was one of the arguments that the Greek philosophers gave for sphericity, that there were people that on the other side of the earth, and Lactantius said it's silly to believe that up is down for them and down is up and it rains upside down, etc. So Lactantius of the 3rd century, flat earther.
Can I just jump in real quick here? Sorry. Because 10th Man has been chasing that angle in the biblical cosmology group, and he got way sidetracked, but he found the same thing, because Danny Faulkner will have a citation for something like that and point it to the opposite as if he didn't understand what was being said, because they were saying in that document you just quoted that it's stupid to think that there are people who are antipode to you, standing on the underside of a ball opposite to you and walking around. And yet Faulkner will tell you it said that they believed that was what the case was, instead of mocking it.
He's either confused or a liar.
Go on, Chocolate.
So you can find these references on newadvent.org.
Okay.
Newadvent.org.
Guys, we've waited for the citation. Let him just tell us.
Newadvent.org. It's a Roman Catholic website. It has all the early church fathers and their writings online, available for free. And then the Divine Institutes is where Lactantius talks about antipodes and their foolishness. All right, so he's the earliest flat earther Christian who refutes the Greek sphere idea. Another one was the 6th century year of our Lord, Cosmas.
Just for a second.
Yeah, can you stop right there?
Because that's an important point, is to take the text in context. Think about what's being said. He's not preaching flat Earth. He's not out there. Yeah. He's making comment at how ridiculous some people who are suggesting antipodal positions are.
Yeah, I would view it. I would view it differently, completely. I'd have to bring in why would anyone be claiming that we're on a spherical Earth without anybody claiming gravity? Gravity didn't turn up until Johannes Kepler.
I'm not trying to argue the nuance of the argument. I'm trying to put it in historical
from practical
context. Right. I'm trying to put it in a historical context. Look at what's being written. He's not preaching flat Earth, telling people this is wrong, it's flat. He's making comment about some silly people that are saying things are antipodal.
That's right.
That's the context in it. He's saying, no, that there's some people preaching there. He's talking to a Christian church, isn't he? And to the church, he's saying, and there's some people saying he says antipodal. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paula. This is 4th century, I think, not 3rd. But that's the context of what's going off. He's not going out there telling everybody it's a flat Earth. He's ridiculing those that are suggesting this concept. But obviously, he's being bandied about. Yeah.
Ridiculing it like I do.
He wouldn't be saying that if there wasn't already people saying the opposite. So somebody said there are people antipodal to us, and he said that's a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
But if you listen to Faulkner, you'll say, oh, he was promoting antipodal.
Yeah. Have you heard that new crazy Greek idea that's come out that we're on a ball and it's antipodal? And he goes, don't be stupid.
It's funny you mention that because there's a passage in Acts, I think it's chapter 17 or something like that, where he says Luke the historian makes the remark that all the Greeks love to do all day is talk about ideas.
Yes.
Therefore, the ideas are all facts. Here's my citation.
Right. Right. And that was the point, is they'll talk about anything. They'll listen to anybody and decide whether they like it or not. You know, it wasn't about science at all. It was philosophy.
Yeah, but I
not
Christian.
Important.
Come on.
I'm sorry. Not that it's important or anything. Do we have primary documentation that what the Greeks thought? By the way,
no.
That's what I'd like.
Yes.
What have we got?
Aristotle on the heavens. This is his writing where he says and teaches the spherical shape of the world.
Citation,
Where
please.
does he teach that?
Yeah.
Hold on. What's the document? Hold on. What's the document? Hold on. Stop. Everyone stop. We need to peg this down as a primary source first before we start questioning and critiquing. Let's get that pegged down first.
That's the point. That's what I'm trying to do. And QB's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, jolly good.
On the heavens, or in Latin, de cielo, the heaven, on the heavens.
Yeah, I heard you the first 3 times.
Though.
I heard you the first 3 times.
I don't have that quote right in front of me. Can you move on?
Can you post the exact citation, please?
I don't have it right now. Can I bring it back later?
Hold on. You told us.
I want to give the other historical reference.
I thought we stopped everything because you said you had got it.
That's what I thought.
Had the reference for the flat earthers, not the sphere earthers.
And you said Plato also, correct?
Yeah. I can bring those
we need,
other day.
Yep, we need those when you get them. Thanks.
All right. So Plato and Aristotle, I wrote that down. The other Christian has a document called Christian Topography, Cosmos Indico Pleustes. Cosmos Indico Pleustes.
Just bring the citations.
All right.
We heard all this before. We want the citations. That's all.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Nothing to do with you, Nathan, who's saying that who's going off to get the citations. I don't believe any of it. It's not that I don't believe. I know
I
and
do
can prove.
Brian. That's why I've labelled it and allowed him to say he's got them, so we can dig down into them. And we're all like-minded on this one, Brian. I assure you.
I know that the globe did not exist prior to Johannes Kepler. Obviously, supposedly Copernicus was involved, and he took Copernicus' solar model, whatever. Yeah, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But before Johannes Kepler gave them heliocentrism. That's what he did, and I know how he did it.
I did infer it, actually. We are still live, and it was part of this live stream where I summarised it in terms of them having a Keplerian assumption with his coins when he's inferring that the Greeks knew 2,000 years ago. So you go, okay, well then you're using Keplerian motion to infer that you've got shadows, right? It's nonsense.
Yeah, but that's the thing about it. You see, you'd have to be able, like, the shadows thing is just something to, as a curveball to throw out there, just as a starting point for anyone who wants to claim a geocentric globe. But Kepler was the first person, right? He was the first person to ever claim anything to do with gravity, right? It was his postulations that Isaac Newton built upon, right? And why were they building upon these things? Because they had a belief that they were on a sphere, and there was all these other spheres out there, and they were doing all these different things, and this sphere did this thing, that thing, the other thing. To claim you're on a sphere, right, the Greeks were not stupid people. So if someone in Greece was claiming we're all on a sphere, and that would mean people on one side of the earth would be upside down to people at the other side. So the soles of your feet would be pointing towards each other. Then no, that's going to be laughed. You're going to be laughed out of the auditorium at that. Do you know what I mean? Really, how was that? How were we all stuck on the side of this ball?
I've been the first one laughing at that shit.
Yeah, let's be honest. They weren't stupid people. So they're not going to be making claims of being on a magic ball.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!